Thank you guys again for joining. For today's collective call, we're excited to welcome Joan Roure. I hope I'm pronouncing your surname good. He's the founder and CEO of Eterlast. And please welcome Kenny Jones, founder of Ample. Thank you guys again for joining. So Joan, you can start first. Please tell us more about you and about Eterlast, and then we will open the floor for any questions that you guys will have. And after that, Kenny will proceed with you.
So myself is Ivan, and I'm co-host of this meeting, and we have Adiya too. So we all welcome you here. Thanks for joining. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section here. We will read it out loud after your presentation. Okay. So, okay, John.
Thank you, Adiya and Ivan for the opportunity. I guess you guys have seen already the screen and you guys are hearing me well. Please let me know. So basically, let me tell you briefly about myself and briefly about an overview of Eterlast. So I'm the founder and CEO of Eterlast. I'm an engineer by background. Started my professional career in JP Morgan, in investment banking, working partly for a bit. And just prior to starting Eterlast, I worked in business development strategy at the US gaming unicorn Scopely. This is where I started actually developing the idea for Eterlast. So in this sense, at Eterlast, we are effectively reimagining sport predictions for the new generation of sports fans. And so let me tell you a bit more about how we do it now. So currently a new exciting form of fandom has emerged, and so which has completely different consumer habits and traits than other generations. And so they have short attention span and need for instant gratification. Free-to-play gaming is the number one form of entertainment. Social being the number one motivation to watch sports, and as well they follow sports on a global scale. However, if you look at the offerings that they are in the market today, there are some challenges for this new audience. Number one, the formats are long and slow. On top of that, the current market offerings embedded in fantasy, they are not user-friendly and are complex to use. And on top of that, they lack social integration, which is the number one motivation for the new generation when consuming our product. And most of the experiences are static and localized. And so when we think about the solution that we want to bring to the table, we want to address the consumer habits of the new generation. And therefore, we have reimagined sport predictions, making them, number one, free to play by eliminating the financial barriers and using gaming as a core principle of the experience. Social, connecting fans around the world, and fun, right? Creating an immersive experience where fans return time and time again. And so in this sense, we have been looking in the market what other players have been targeting this new audience, even though they might not be in our exact niche or exact market segment. But when we see these different players, such as Omala in Europe or Sleeper in the US, they have been able to get traction very, very quickly, and as well have had a lot of success early on when captivating the new generations. And so in that sense, some of the reasons as well why it has such massive potential is because the market size that we're addressing is massive. We are ultimately addressing a global and digital audience that keeps growing year after year as the new generation start having spending power. And so we're addressing a market which is an intersection between casual sport games and fantasy sport games, which at maturity will be aiming at a 15% market share of the overlapping market, with sits around 50 million users in our platform at maturity, which as well is in line with the type of product that and other comps in the market in this sense. The reason why we think as well that our product is super social and viral is because it's built under those premises, right? And on top of that, we want to reach this amount of users because we cover the entire experience of a sport fan before, during, and after the sporting event, right? And so in that sense, when we look at the pre-match experience, users are able to predict the outcomes of the major sporting events on a daily basis. During the match, we utilize AI for a unique play-by-play macro predictions competition where users where users are able to predict each move that is happening within the game, keeping the users engaged during the entire length of the match. This means that the users are engaged for 90 minutes, 120 minutes. They're constantly interacting with the product. And on top of that, all of these, whether it's a pre-match or during the match, users are competing against not only their friends, but globally in the leaderboards to become the number one. Around the post-match experience, we ultimately use the main gaming principles. So effectively, we use the most well-known and used gaming principles, which has an individual career path system, and on top of that, it has a competitive progression path, where effectively users are able to promote or demote their division on a weekly basis, enabling them to compete against users of their same level. This comes down to ultimately, well, what is the word? How these products sits within the different business models in gaming, no? And so we ultimately monetize through in-app purchases and advertising, leveraging the already proven free-to-play freemium model. And so based on the alpha we have been running with 14,000 users, which we have seen a very good traction so far. We're looking at which we saw conversion to monetization of around 13% and an LTV in just 3 months of $50 per payer. If we look at scale, right, this means that we're looking at a business that, putting on a more conservative figures, around 10% conversion to monetization, around $50 annual LTV per paying user. This means that annual recurring revenue of around $250 million projected at maturity. So the way we get to that point is by using an adoption strategy which leverages on the stakeholders that already interact with our target audience, which are the Gen Zs and millennials between 18 and 35 years old. No? And so in that sense, this goes back as well to my experience back at Scopely, where we already were targeting existing audiences. We just need to use the levers and the different content creators that effectively this fandom already interacts with now. And so in that sense, we use 3 main pillars: influencers and athletes, which we are already in advanced conversations with some of the largest influencers and athletes to become ambassadors and promoters of the gaming experience, which ultimately comes down as well to the other 2 buckets, which is having a very strong content creation strategy and as well a performance marketing strategy, which ultimately can scale not only in our initial markets, which are Europe and the US, but as well across other geographies like Latin, India, Southeast Asia. In terms of when we look at the sports entertainment industry, it's a crowded space. However, there is a large untapped market for value propositions that are reimagining sport predictions for the new generation and making them actually truly social and free to play, right? So we are looking to become as social as a traditional fantasy game by creating a compelling gaming experience such as Tennis Clash or Golf Clash, right? And that's why we're sitting on the top right corner, where effectively we're looking for a customer acquisition cost of around $10, which effectively is similar to a traditional free-to-play game. But on top of that, we're looking at an LTV which sits similar to a Sleeper or even in the ranges of highly well monetized casual games. And so this is one of the competitive advantages that we have in terms of the niche market that we're tapping, which is the reimagining sport predictions for the new generation of fans, and even doing it while watching a game, right? But on top of that, there are 5 other elements which allow us to have a very strong competitive advantage. Number 1, the scalable business model that we have, right? So while we're starting in the US and Europe with main sports, we can expand into Latin, Southeast Asia, India, and other markets in sports without any barriers, right? So we can go global very quickly compared to most of the sport entertainment solutions which are localized. The strong unit economics, right? We are looking for this product is very social, using free-to-play dynamics, which ultimately is appealing for a large user base. And on top of that, we have very good LTV CAC ratios, which allow us to monetize very, very well the product on a recurring basis. And then it comes down as well, before going into the team, I want to touch on the advanced tech stack that we're using. We're leveraging on AI for the play-by-play predictions. And on top of that, we have a blockchain, in-house blockchain technology with proprietary primary and secondary marketplaces, non-custodial wallets, and onboarding via a crypto payment system that we're looking to enable in the medium term to enhance user engagement and lifetime value of the platform as we keep onboarding users down the line. Touching on the other points of with the advantages, one of the secret sources that we have in our team is the experience that we have as a team, right? We have launched 4 other startups with our we have created 15 other different games with over 50 million installs in those games, and eventually we have award winners, individuals in our team in this sense. And not only that, the fact that we are based as well in Barcelona, this allows us as well to have a very streamlined cost structure as well, which we're looking at $35,000 on monthly burn in this sense, which will allow us to get to a break-even point relatively quickly when we launch in April, which is the launch that we have for the product. In this sense, touching on the early traction that we've been having, we are not starting this product from zero. We have been working on this product for over 12 months already, and we have been doing a lot of testing with over 14,000 users. And we launched our alpha version of the concept in the UK, specifically in boxing as a beachhead to understand the behavior of users in our experience, and it resulted in staggering results. D30 retention rates of around 39%, conversion to monetization of 13%, and as well an inter-monthly rate, a retention rate of around 91%, which means that once one user is retained at the end of the month, 9 out of 10, they stay in the platform, right? Which means that it's a super sticky product in this sense. Ultimately, the reason why we have been able to get such good metrics is because we have built this game with our target audience. And so ultimately, it appeals very well to what are their needs, how they interact, and what do they do already and when they watch a match. And so we're looking here at a social gaming platform that is more of a companion and user engagement experience rather than something that they need to add on top of the already 1,000 entertainment options that they have in their play. And so we're ultimately looking now to launch our platform by Q2 of 2024 in the US and Europe. And we're looking for 1 million to go to the market and start capturing users to prove our path for profitability during the following 12 months to justify a Series A purely dedicated for user acquisition. We're bringing effectively the opportunity at a very attractive valuation, really at around $5 million pre-money, which we started to share last week, and we already have around 50% of the capital committed. We current investors like Pay Ventures, Active Farms, Supernode, and others will join the round as well. With this capital, we're looking to bring to the world for the first time the sports predictions genuinely reimagined for the new generation of fans. So I hope you join the revolution of live sports entertainment. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you so much for this amazing pitch. So I have a question for you. How do you plan to address potential regulatory challenges in the digital sports industry?
So here, because it's a free-to-play game, it doesn't have cash outs, or it is not a pay-to-play experience. It ultimately doesn't have any barriers around from a regulatory standpoint. And on top of that, from a licensing perspective, we're looking here at just licensing the data, which ultimately we are partnered. We have official data providers, which ultimately we're licensing all the data that we need for around $5,000 a month in that sense. So in that sense, we don't have any barriers or contingencies that we're looking at when expanding to new geographies, including the US and Europe and beyond.
And my next question, how do you plan to capture and retain the attention of Gen Z sport fans who have a short attention and seek instant gratification now these days?
So here are there are two types of parameters that our users have told us. They have told us, hey, look, I already spend time in games. I have the time, our target specifically, which is between 18 and 35. They already have a busy schedule, and whether it's working or socializing, so they cannot do something for a long period of time. So, and so we're for the pre-match, which is where they would need to spend an extra time. It's a very simple experience where normally it's a 2 to 5 minute session where they are able to participate. But where we really make the difference is in the during or the play-by-play petitions tournaments, where effectively users are engaged or the entirety of the match, because it's something that it's an activity that they're already doing. So ultimately, we are adding on top of an activity that they already do on an ongoing basis, and we add a layer of experience and entertainment to something that they already enjoy. And so that's something they tell us the opportunity cost of us of doing this is zero. And on top of that, we have fun, we interact with each other, and give us that experience. And we need to keep up to, as you were saying, to have a short attention span and instant gratification, because a 90-minute soccer game here in Europe, which is that, I'm a Football Club Barcelona fan. So in that sense, right now, the Football Club Barcelona fan has a very boring type of games, right? So it's very hard for even for me to keep up attention. So in that sense, having a gaming experience like ours allows us to segment a 90-minute game into 5-minute play-by-play predictions, where effectively we are constantly looking at what is happening next in the game and being completely engaged with what you're watching on an ongoing basis.
All right, got it. And the next question we have from player Taco.
GM, I hope everyone's doing well. Let me put my hand down real quick. Sorry. Joan, great presentation. A couple things that I have that I just wanted to point out. I've love the pitch. A couple of things that I saw on some of the different slides was just a little bit of verbiage and grammar issues. I pick up these things, especially like on this page. In that first sentence, the funding will be used blank optimize. So use to optimize. Are you doing anything smaller than 150K notes for your raise, or is that what you're just doing as a convertible note to keep your cap table small?
No, by the way, thank you for letting me know. Being a show founder with a ton of hats, it's always great to have other eyes to look at some of these elements. So thank you for taking note on that. I would for sure take note. So yes, we're definitely ultimately we're happy to engage in conversations for any party that's interested. Many in the past we had smaller investors coming in. Sometimes we join them, sometimes we accept them their tickets. So in that sense, we are quite flexible in that sense.
Okay. And then, as I'm sort of just I'm a small time member of Platinum Fund. And one of the things that we, sort of help is, through connections and stuff like that. So if Adiya wants, through her, I can connect you with some of like the big 3 teams for adding more sports, especially if you're aiming towards that community. It would be good to sort of target some of the Web3 sports platforms. What are you doing? I saw on socials, you have your Eterlast main account, which has, only, less than 1,000 followers. What are you doing to get more eyes on project right now? And I see that you have Eterlast Boxing as well. Are you going to be creating different accounts for different sports, or are you going to try to funnel it all to one account?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So in that sense, by the way, thank you for the offering. Happy to connect in that sense. Talking kind of the socials element. So Eterlast is our kind of game studio name. So it's not our kind of B2C name in that sense. So we are putting, let's say, 1 to 0 kind of effort in trying to kind of expand our socials and into Eterlast kind of branding. What we have been doing is in the Eterlast Boxing account that you were mentioning before. It's kind of where we have been doing the trials and kind of the different prototype and alpha tests with boxing, and that is where we have around 14,000, if I'm not mistaken, followers. But in that sense, it is something. Again, we have been optimizing really around understanding very well whether our product has product market fit for our users, whether it retains well, whether it converts well into monetization, rather than optimizing for user acquisition, which is something that we're looking to optimize once the product has been refined, which is something that we will be doing certainly in April.
All right, and then my last suggestion is, I know your domain name is coming up for renewal soon. I would actually pick up the .net, .org, and .app and .live. It'll cost you maybe $60 to do that, especially as you're looking to grow into this market. That will be a safety issue that will just be able to redirect back to your homepage. The fact that you haven't done that yet,
Yeah, no, thank you for picking that up. Definitely, I will keep an eye on that. And by the way, the name of the platform that we'll be using is something that we'll be announcing soon as well, and definitely we'll be as well picking that up on that point.
All right. Thank you, Taco, for question. I can definitely help you with the connections. And we have questions from the chat. Osnat is asking, how much did you raise before and from whom?
Mm-hmm. So we in the initial business model that we had, which effectively that was in August of 2021. Our initial business model was licensing blockchain gaming rights to build fantasy games out of those sport brands. Effectively, we were very successful at that. At doing that, we had around 85% of the rugby IP content and so on, IP license globally and other brands. And effectively, as the blockchain adoption market didn't grow at the pace that we wanted, we effectively shifted the model. While we were building the initial business model, we were able to secure strong rounds with very good funds. So we have Play Venture, which is the #1 gaming fund, and super non-global active partners, which are the main investors, the initial investors of Soul House, Finesterre, Rafa, and some other leading sport brands, as well as Immutable X, State Capital, and some other great names in the industry. And so in that,
sorry, but I'm sorry to interrupt. It's just very hard to follow your response. It would be very great because you mentioned on the slide that your existing investors are joining into this round. Mm-hmm. So can you name the investors and how much you had an investment off and in what format in your previous round, since you're saying they're joining this round as well?
Yes, they have. So we have Play Ventures, which is one of the leading gaming investors. Super non-global, which is as well a great fund around focus on consumer-driven startups. Active Partners, which are the leading investors of Soul House, Finesterre, and other leading sporting brands. We have as well Founders Factory, State Capital, Immutable X, and other institutional investors. In total, we raised around $4 million out of all these investors, and most of them are including Play Ventures, Supernova, Active Partners, and others are joining the round. They are putting around $500,000 out of the total amount that we are raising on top of the million that we are already raising.
So you've raised 4 million and now you're raising 1 million?
Correct. Especially because of the pivot.
Is it like a bridge round or?
Exactly. It's a bridge round due to the pivot of the initial business model that we had that I was explaining earlier on.
Well, two things. One, I would advise you to be upfront about it, because otherwise it looks like you're trying to downplay it. And also there are specific funds and investors who prefer to do bridge rounds, so you're losing the opportunity with them. And B, the question then would be like, why do you need the bridge round, as opposed to what did you do with the 4 million you already got? You don't need to answer now, but I'm saying these are key questions that could lose you points. And I think it's a shame not to say that you raised 4 million. It's not a small achievement. You just need to, I think, present this in a different light as a combined story than what you do right now. That would be my advice on this particular point.
Yes, no, I appreciate the input. The reality is that there are multiple. I'm happy to provide all the information that that is needed. There has been mixed kind of opinions of when or how to present it in that sense, but of course it is something that actually we're very proud of, having some of the leading investors globally in gaming and the consumer and blockchain that not only have trusted us but keep trusting us, taking into account the different hard times in the market environment has been, and how we've been able to turn around the company and put forward a very compelling business model on top and value proposition for the next stage of the company.
Okay, and also the question from Osnat in the chat: what's the user average spend with competitors, and how much do your top competitors make?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Adiya?
Yeah, from the chat, what is the user average spend with the competitors, and how much do your top competitors make?
So our competitors range the type of competitors that we're looking at, right? So for the purely betting, pay-to-play individual kind of type of players, we're looking at an LTV which is around $2,500, but their customer acquisition cost is $370. That's in the US, right? That's for the pure betting companies. For the casual gaming companies, we're looking at a CPI of around $1 to $2 in this end, which certainly converts to around $5 for the paying for the customer acquisition cost, and then they are making an LTV of around, if I'm not mistaken, around $15 and with Golf Clash, Tennis Clash, and others. And so in that sense, there's this kind of these two elements, these two sides of the competition that we're looking at. The other type of competitors that we are seeing is the pure fantasy games, which they have massive outreach, but they are very they lack the monetization element, which that's why they need such a big user base. We're looking at a conversion to monetization of 1 to 2%, and effectively the expenditure of these users is very low. It's around $1.5 at max.
Okay, we have more questions from the chat, so I hope that was already answered. Kenneth, have you done any work to estimate your CPI? Is that correct? Or we can proceed to the next question.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Ivan?
Have you done any work to estimate your CPI from Kenneth?
Yes. So basically our CPI, effectively, just sharing very quickly the screen, we have done multiple tests with our alpha, with different channels, whether our influencers, athletes, promoters, social media, news outlets, game launchpads, organic, with paid channels, non-paid channels. And so in that sense, we have seen a customer acquisition cost of around $16, which has ultimately then resulted in an LTV in 3 months for around $45, which is like around 3 times in profit in that sense.
All right. So the next question, real quick, because we have another project on the line. So it's this one from Osman. Can we play now? Because he cannot access it. There is only landing page.
Yes, we're actually, if anyone wants to try, we can add them to the focus groups, because we're launching the app in the US and Europe by April. So in that sense, we're giving early access to some users that are allowing us to test the different features and give us feedback. So if anyone wants to be part of these focus groups, happy to include them.
Okay, so the next question from Player One Taco. I will read that anyway. So does a user have to go through the Discord to get access, or what is the process?
No, for get access to what? To the app itself or to the alpha? I guess to the alpha. And so, no, so it's basically, you can either ask me in Discord, or I will share my email, and you can send me an email directly, and I will be able to give you access.
And by the way, here goes the next question related to that. So any link to the pitch deck to review things quickly?
Yes, definitely. I will be able to share the link to this pitch deck, and as well a link to a prototype.
Okay, so you can do that as well in the meeting chat, so everyone can see that. Awesome. So yeah, this is all the questions. I hope you guys, if you have more, feel free to ask now, because we should already proceed to the next presentation of the line. So we have Ample project, and we have founder of Ample, Kenny Jones. So feel free to present your presentation, Kenny.
All right, everybody, I'm Kenny Johns, and I am here to tell you all about Ample. Basically, we are decentralizing a $2.8 trillion media and entertainment creator economy. We are an application layer protocol, and what we do is we're building the rails to support tokenized intellectual property and the associated media so that it can be distributed across, the entire Web3 landscape. As more streaming platforms come on, more marketplaces come on, we're basically going to be the bridge across chains, distribution, basically creating distribution so we can distribute content across chains that have different, streaming models that pay out in different chains, as well as marketplaces that pay out in different chains. So people can basically launch from one singular hub. This will be enterprise level brands. This will be individual creators, filmmakers, showrunners, musicians. All right, cool. So here are some of the clients that we've worked with. I basically have a background. I worked for National Geographic and Discovery Channel for about 15 years. I had my own production company, scaled that up, exited a couple of years ago, and then got into the crazy world of crypto. So this just gives you an idea. We'll get into more of the team. Here's our team. As you can see here, I'm basically the one with the majority of the domain expertise on the team. I got into this because I got into gaming. I learned that NFTs and crypto could essentially be like in smart contract architecture. You could essentially create a new infrastructure to fix all the problems that I had seen over 15 plus years of professional experience, right? That it could create this whole world of possibilities. And then once I saw how much people would really be into NFT communities and JPEGs and everything else, I figured you could just apply that same logic to music, films, shows, etc. Right? So we set out and started solving those problems. But yeah, as you can see, I worked with a good bit of people. I've had my own companies before. We also have Raj. Raj has helped a lot of different projects launch. He's launched stuff on Near, Solana, EVM. And he also kind of has an interesting background where he's helped a lot of creators specifically, get really big, with YouTube and TikTok and different kind of content. So he's really great on the creator side, right? And then Manuel's been a newer introduction to the team over the last couple of months, but he's been amazing. He's our full stack dev. He's jumped on, and he's really just kind of really helped us get to the finish line with our alpha project. He's been a blessing to work with, honestly. And then we have Josh. Josh keeps us on the straight and narrow, all things legal. Shout out to Josh. He's on the call. But yeah, obviously, because we're dealing with everything tokenized intellectual property, and we're working with enterprise brands and people that know legal structures a little bit better, we have to make sure that, our launches are compliant and intelligent, right? So so Josh helps us on all fronts. And then we have a good bit of supporting team. We have people that have done plenty of raising and launching. We've got people that help us with our ops and admin. And then we've got obviously social and comms managers. You guys can see all of these people here. I'm not going to read everybody's description to keep it kind of moving. But if you want to check it out, who's our advisors, they're pretty awesome. They've worked with a lot of amazing people, and they help us kind of, again, stay focused on how we can relate to big industry players. Cool. So a little bit of milestones and traction. We have over the last year, we've basically locked down about 25 launch partnerships, and they have, you'll see their stats later in the presentation, but I just wanted to, let you know that we do have people ready to launch. And if you go to our DApp, our alpha level DApp, you can actually see their promos and watch their content and see if you'd be excited about that, right? And then the biggest one that we just kind of got was we have an enterprise launch with Caracol Television. And they're one of the top 3 media conglomerates in the Latin America region. So that's probably the biggest news that's happened in the last 6 weeks. But we've been we went back and forth with them, and we finally agreed on the show that we're going to launch and things like that. So we've also done a lot of research, a lot of data digging. And I'll share a link tree, and there'll be plenty of links to all this stuff at the end. But basically, we have all of our alpha platform ready. It's got the IP ownership. We have an IP ownership NFT collection with royalty streams payable in fiat and crypto. So we're working through all that. We just completed our Near Horizon Accelerator, and that was about a month ago. And we have a Near Foundation grant and a single angel investor that's helped us kind of get to where we are. Let's see. So I'll just give you a quick overview of how it works. I'm not going to go line by line here, but essentially enterprise clients, independent creators, whoever can essentially create a launch offering. They basically complete an intake form. They can launch from our basically it's a hub. Really, it's like a launch pad for creators, but they can decide on what offerings they want to have. And then we basically create everything for them, and we create a whole landing page for them. And basically then they bring their communities to that landing page. Then they can distribute their NFTs across chains to different marketplaces, and then to different streaming platforms, as well as our streaming platform. So they're not locked in to having to make a singular agreement to one streaming platform and one monetization possibility. They get to capitalize on all marketplaces, all streaming platforms, and have maximum exposure, which is really what you kind of need to compete with legacy streaming and engagement. So then obviously fans can engage, and communities can engage with that ownership and that intellectual property, depending on where they are geographically located, obviously. But whatever those tokenized offerings are, the same place that fans could essentially stream, they can also engage and get merch or NFTs, whatever those offerings are, tokenized, token gated access, whatever, right? So that's kind of the gist, but we'll get into the problem, but I just wanted to show visually, this is the big thing that we're building is infrastructure and bridging across, again, different chains. But the main goal is to essentially connect all the people you see in this visual. So creators, owners, brands, distributors, can be bridged and connected to marketplaces and streaming platforms. We have participation now from streaming audiences where they can stream as they normally do, but they can also become collectors, fans, financiers, right? And again, a lot of this is geographically located, right? It depends where they're actually located. So we would have to geogate access, right? And then we have the communities and networks now becoming, kind of a powerful flywheel marketing effect, which we've seen, I think, over the last couple of years. That's kind of been validated, right? And then we're essentially the DAO that helps kind of manage all of this possibility. Cool. So I'm not going to go through all these because it's too many, but basically the idea is high transaction volume and, lower cuts of everything, right? So more money goes to all the different participants and the brands and the owners. And then the DAO essentially takes a cut of all the transactions, right? So and that's the other reason that bridges are nice, right? So we don't have to necessarily worry about streaming competition because we are just distributing everywhere. So it's also great for creators. Cool. So the most important thing to take away from all of this, is that what the real problem that we're actually fixing is what's called distribution, right? And so the decades of payment, funding, distribution, ownership, licensing, and rights management issues in media and entertainment and creator economy, a lot of times that's just referred to as distribution, right? So we are creating a new distribution framework and infrastructure so that people can own much more of their actual intellectual property and then share that engagement with communities, right? So we're removing the gates and middlemen to create massive opportunities, right? For about the 98 to 99% of people that don't ever get access to network opportunities. And then just a little other thing that we'll be supporting is AI on-chain provenance, the engagement and analytics support, obviously that's going to be needed because, you're going to need all those analytics. You're going to want to trust you're going to need transparent engagement analytics, right? And, splits and everything and payouts is obviously a big deal. So we think there's going to be a big content boom. I personally fully believe there's going to be a massive content boom with AI content and creator tools. So there's going to need to be that essentially, and blockchain as a ledger is perfect for AI content provenance, right? And then basically the more that people engage with that content provenance on chain, they'll be able to have all those engagement analytics transparent and accessible at any point. So this gets into our 3,000 users. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this, but we asked over 3,000 users what they wanted. And most of what we're building right now and what you can see listed here is everything that we got responses on for what they really want. And you can see that there's obviously, I think we all know that there's a reason that we're all going kind of like Web3 because of the efficiency, transparency, all of that's being applied at every level, from analytics, tooling, composable pages, and higher and faster payouts and things like that. Cool. I think, growth market and size opportunity. Again, I think most of us understand that we are going into an expansive realm here. It's, Web3 is dynamic, blockchain's dynamic, everything's changing, but I think we see that there's going to be a growth opportunity here. We look at intellectual property very similar to real world assets. Right. And I think that's a big thing that, a lot of people are focusing on right now. We kind of view intellectual property in the same line. Right. So currently the estimate, globally of the creator economies and media and entertainment is about 2.8 trillion. We look at the initial serviceable market smaller at like 10 billion. Right. And then we'll slowly snowball into a bigger number as the years go on. This was a really cool kind of speaking engagement that I watched, but I just wanted to point this out that like larger legacy brands, and we talk to them, are actually understanding this concept of transmedia and how to expand and engage their communities with transmedia. So basically they're just saying across different platforms, there's going to be this major opportunity to engage with intellectual property. And so you have, the CEO of Sega was actually talking about this at Web Summit. So I just want to point out that this is going to be a thing that legacy companies are moving to. Cool. So here are some of the stats for our established partners. We actually didn't add anything from Caracol TV, and they're like the biggest partner that we have. So we don't have their stats on here yet. But basically, we've got, the partners that we do have about 2.7 million followers and 416 million streams in 50 countries. Part of our go-to-market strategy is actually to find these smaller niche communities, 50 to 100,000 followers, let's just say. And based on our pricing data that we got from our surveys, there's an average spend of about $100. So, if you have 100,000, community size, and you only engage with, 2,000 of them, 2,000 times 100, that's enough to make your content, right? So that's enough to raise a successful campaign. So micro campaigns can really go far for an individual creator or even a brand. And then again, the go-to-market strategy, a lot of this I just talked about, but we just started a Quest campaign. Obviously, that's kind of a big thing, and we love the concept of gamification. So I think adding gamification into your strategies makes a lot of sense right now. But all of the other stuff is pretty straightforward. Ads, social video content. Obviously, we have enterprise partnerships. And then another big partnership that we're pushing are the AI creator tools to help them create actually like an NFT that essentially is, an authentication of provenance for that content and for those owners. So that as that content is generated out, there's always like essentially like a deed of ownership that comes with it. All right, cool. But again, you can check more of this stuff out later. I won't go too far into all of this stuff because it's a lot, but we are more similar to Lens and Story, if anybody's familiar with them. I will just point out that our defensibility, I think, is the most important thing, because we are not essentially trying to create a moat and we're creating bridges. Once those bridges are in place and they work, and we have those monetization and settlement layers and all those kind of things in place so that people don't have to dance around between 20 different platforms to get paid, and they don't have to chase legacy agencies and everything and hire lawyers, I think that's our real defensibility. Once that's in place, there's really no reason to rebuild the bridges. Cool. Roadmap. Yeah, that's way too much information for this pitch, but you can go check it out if you want. We've hit most of those goals. We do have a seed round open, so I should point that out. And I'm sure we'll get some questions about that. Happy to answer. And then this is where you can find some additional links. And then if you have any questions, like this QR code will take you to our link tree. And this will connect you to all of our social platforms, anything else that you want to do a deep dive on, deck, everything else like that. And then you can obviously contact me, email. So I'll leave this up. And that is it. So I'll just leave this up while we answer questions, just in case anybody wants to connect outside of that. But that's all. That's what I got for now. Happy to answer some questions.
Amazing pitch, Kenny, once again. So we have player one, Taco, raising hand. So keep going.
For sure, man.
GM, Kenny.
GM, sir.
How are you?
Good, man.
So you scrubbed over it real quick. I know you're in your raising round. What is your current raise at? What are you trying to raise?
Yep, for sure. So we have a few rounds, but it's 1.8 million.
Okay, and that will be a SAFT?
No, TPA, or it could be a safe with a token warrant. Ideally.
Yeah. What do you plan to do with that?
Yeah, so that based on our projections, that gives us about an 18-month runway. It pays for the exchange listings. We already have our entities and everything else like that set up. So yeah, it's all the marketing development with the enterprise client now that we have that, and all those launches and things like that.
And then I saw that the site's been upgraded since last time I've seen it. I like it. But are you going to be sticking with 100% near for login, or are you going to be adding more wallets and everything like that, or more sign-in methods?
For sure, it's an awesome question. Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you asked that question. Yeah, because so basically we use Near has chain abstraction and data availability coming online. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call. But, and that's great for the front end. So that'll be great for a front end user experience. They have KeyPalm. It gives a really good, non-native Web3 experience. You won't need to know that you have a wallet and things like that. But no, we're talking to Consensus Scale right now about basically bringing on, because we want to be basically cross-chain. We do need to have basically EVM compatibility, Solana, and right now we're looking at basically a tech stack of Near on the front side, and then kind of having Wormhole as a middle layer with Solana, and potentially Linea if we go to Consensus, which will have us obviously MetaMask and things like that. So hopefully that answers your question. And obviously there's a lot more to that, but just want to keep it brief.
And then so my understanding right now, for a user, the main function, the only function that they really can do is they can get the Genesis NFT for 10 Near, or are there other is that just for generalized access, or what does that get a user?
For sure. So, okay, yeah, right now the first project that's live on testnet is the Metaverse Genesis, right? And so that we are using that as that's our first project, that's our first test. We actually will have other rewards, and there'll be a quest that comes out soon with that Metaverse Genesis NFT. I can't say anything yet, but yeah, there'll be more reasons to actually get that, because that'll be, that's essentially our first launch. So that's actually full ownership, so that you get with that NFT, right? So and again, this is a short animated film as a test, but it's basically our first launch project. So we're gonna add some things to that through the DAO, but no, and this is why we're kind of where we're at with the enterprise client, Caracol. We're basically gonna keep building out functionalities on all the showcase pages. So Metaverse Genesis right now, all you can do, is buy the NFT, but within weeks, you'll be able to do everything, claim royalties. And then we have a very simple intake process for launching content, but because we have to make sure that, your launch is legally compliant, we go through and kind of like hold everybody's hand, because it's going to be a while before we figure out how to like automate that process.
So it's not going to be permissionless then. It's going to be curated.
Eventually it will be more permissionless. I think what we have to make sure of is that, right, because like this is what I used to do at Nat Geo, right? Like you have to have some level of technical specs so that when people launch from the platform, their content can actually go stream other places. Like imagine if you created a film or a show for $200,000 and Netflix wants to license it from you, but you don't have the right deliverables, right? Like that is not a problem you want to run into, you know? So we have to kind of ensure a level of deliverables and at least make sure people are aware of that. And I don't think I think we'd have to go through maybe like 100+ launches to kind of get a little bit more clarity on, are people even going to care about that? But I think it would matter, but we'll see. Thank you, man. Those are like the real questions.
Okay, guys, so feel free to ask more. Meanwhile, I have personally questions. So are there any particular influencers that you are in talks with right now?
Yeah, so yep. So a couple of our creators are, I don't know, I mean, depending on what you mean by influencer, like if they have like a decent following or not, right? Like one of the big ones is Dora, and she's on there as Alternative Eats. But yeah, if you check her out, yeah, she's pretty massive. And then we have a bunch, like a lot of our creators actually have like 100, 200,000 streams per month, or millions of views on YouTube. But, you know, they're what we like to call like B-level creators. You know, they've got massive amounts of fans, but they don't make any money off the streaming, just because streaming doesn't pay at all. So the goal is to help them capture some of these massive followings that they've built up, right? And actually get some monetization from that, as well as higher streaming payouts. But mostly what we're focused on right now are our current creators, because they already have big enough, and 25 is a lot to like cover for us right now. And we have a big enterprise launch coming up, and they have, potentially millions of people. So for where we are at an alpha level and raising our seed round, like we need to make sure we don't bring too many clients on, because we already have a lot of them. But that's why we're also raising, to be able to scale, get to revenue generation, and kind of complete our chain agnostic goals. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That sounds good. Okay. We expect more questions in the chat. I see questions addressed to the previous speaker. Okay, so to keep it short, Adiya, you want to add something here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, where are you based, Kenny?
Yep, so I am, Josh and I are based in the States. I'm in Virginia, right south of DC. And then our two other devs, Manuel and Raj, they're in Mexico.
Okay, and are you planning to attend ETH Denver?
For sure. Yeah, I've got my buff of corn ready. I'm down.
I will see you there.
Amazing. Yeah, like anybody here that's going to be at ETH Denver, like let's connect. You know what? I'll put my
please
put my TG in the chat, so y'all can just hit me up anytime. Let's see.
Leave the link to your deck also would be great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty it for today.
All right. So big thanks, Kenny, for your presentation, for your pitch. It was really amazing. And by the way, John, for you as well. And thanks everyone for participating here, for joining in, tuning in. So I will see you around, and thanks for staying.